What a complete joke, Fleet Admiral Corzon snorted, tossing the holographic report across the sleek obsidian table. These humans and their so-called space program. Can you believe they still use combustion rockets? Combustion. Rockets. The other members of the Galactic High Command burst into laughter, their various appendages slapping against the table or their bodies, depending on their species' anatomy. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. As the newest and most junior intelligence analyst assigned to the High Command, I wasn't sure if I should laugh along or maintain my professional composure. I chose the latter. "Commander Valix, you seem unusually quiet," Admiral Corzon said, his 4 eyes focusing on me with unnerving precision. "Do you not find the primitives amusing?" "I find them interesting, Admiral," I replied carefully. "Humans have accomplished quite a lot in a relatively short evolutionary time frame." This prompted another round of laughter, even louder than before. "Oh, Valix," wheezed General Dorn, a massive Krell whose leathery skin rippled with each chuckle. "Next you will tell us their nuclear weapons are a genuine threat to our battle cruisers." "Their nuclear weapons are basically just fancy fireworks compared to our quantum disruptors," added Science Director Prill, her antennae twitching with amusement. "Did you know they still haven't even mastered basic gravity manipulation? They live their entire lives stuck to the surface of their planet like bacteria in a petri dish." Admiral Corzon leaned forward, his silver-blue skin reflecting the holographic displays surrounding us. "Let me educate you, young Valix. Humans are a curiosity, nothing more. We have been monitoring them for nearly 2 centuries, and in that time, they have barely managed to send a few primitive probes beyond their own solar system. Their most advanced computers are laughably simple. Their understanding of physics is elementary at best." I nodded, not wanting to contradict my superior officers, but something about the dismissive attitude bothered me. "With respect, Admiral, their rate of technological advancement has been accelerating significantly in recent decades." The room fell silent. Admiral Corzon's upper eyes narrowed while his lower ones widened, a sign of irritation among the Zolari. "Analyst Valix," he said slowly, "are you suggesting that these primitive bipeds pose some kind of threat to the Galactic Confederation?" "No, sir," I backpedaled quickly. "Just that they might be worth watching more closely. We have 14 different species in the Confederation, each with technology thousands of years beyond Earth's capabilities," General Dorn rumbled. "The humans would be obliterated if they ever became troublesome." "Besides," interjected Fleet Commander Taz, speaking for the first time, "their planet is resource-rich. If they ever develop anything remotely interesting, we can always appropriate it." His sharp teeth gleamed as he smiled. I felt a chill run down my spine. The Rakkar were known for their aggressive expansion before joining the Confederation. Old habits die hard, apparently. "Let's move on to actual threats," Admiral Corzon declared, dismissing the hologram of Earth with a flick of his long fingers. "The Vex incursion in Sector 7 requires our immediate attention." As the meeting continued, my thoughts kept drifting back to the humans. Something about them fascinated me. Perhaps it was their resilience, their creativity despite their limitations, or maybe just their bizarre appearance, only 2 eyes, 2 arms, and those strange hair patches. Whatever it was, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing something important. 3 solar cycles later, I found myself aboard the research vessel Quantum Horizon, orbiting Earth at a distance sufficient to avoid detection by their primitive scanning systems. My persistent interest in humans had earned me a temporary reassignment, officially to expand my understanding of lesser species, but everyone knew it was a polite demotion for contradicting the High Command. "Enjoying the view, Commander?" asked Captain Jorla as she floated into the observation deck. As a Novan, she had evolved in low gravity and moved with a grace that always made me slightly envious. "It's a beautiful planet," I admitted, gazing at the blue-green orb below us. "Hard to believe such primitive beings evolved in such an ideal environment." "Perhaps that's why they are so primitive," Jorla suggested, her violet eyes reflecting Earth's oceans. "They never had to overcome true adversity." The Krell evolved on a world with triple Earth's gravity and toxic atmosphere. The Zolari survived an ice age that lasted millennia. Hardship breeds advancement. Yet humans have had their share of challenges, I countered. Their historical records show constant warfare, plagues, natural disasters. Petty squabbles and minor setbacks, Jorla dismissed with a wave of her slender hand. Nothing like the great filter events that forged the Confederation species. I was about to respond when the ship's alarms suddenly blared to life. Captain Jorla to the bridge immediately, the ship's AI announced. Unusual energy signature detected. We rushed to the bridge, where the crew was already in a flurry of activity. Report, Jorla commanded as she settled into her command chair. Science Officer Wren looked up from his console, his expression puzzled. Captain, we are detecting an energy pattern emanating from the dark side of Earth's moon. It doesn't match any known human technology. Show me, Jorla ordered. A holographic display materialized, showing the cratered surface of Earth's moon. A pulsing red dot indicated the source of the energy signature. Magnify, I requested, leaning forward. The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be some kind of installation built into the rim of a crater. It was partially camouflaged, but our sensors could detect the energy flowing through it. That's impossible, Jorla whispered. Human records indicate they abandoned their moon missions decades ago. Apparently not, I replied, feeling a strange mixture of vindication and concern. And they have been busy. Should we report this to High Command? Asked Communications Officer Dex. Jorla hesitated. Not yet. Let's gather more information first. Prepare a stealth probe. Within minutes, a probe no larger than my fist was deployed toward the lunar installation. Designed with our most advanced cloaking technology, it was virtually undetectable by Confederation standards, let alone human ones. Well, so we thought. Captain, the probe has been targeted by some kind of scanning beam, Wren reported, his voice rising in pitch. Impossible, Jorla snapped. Their technology can't possibly. She never finished her sentence. A beam of concentrated energy shot up from the lunar surface, vaporizing our probe instantly. In full shields. Evasive maneuvers, Jorla commanded, but it was too late. A second beam, far more powerful than the first, struck our ship. Our shields flared brilliantly for a moment before collapsing entirely. Systems throughout the vessel began shutting down. What's happening? I demanded, watching in horror as the holographic displays flickered and died. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, but far more sophisticated than anything humans should possess, Wren replied, frantically working his console. We are losing all power. Emergency protocols. Switch to backup systems. Jorla ordered. Backups aren't responding, reported the engineering officer. Whatever hit us affected our quantum core. We are dead in space. As if to punctuate this dire announcement, the artificial gravity failed. We all began floating, along with various objects that hadn't been secured. Captain Communications Officer Dex called out, his voice strangely calm. We are receiving a transmission from the lunar base. Put it through, Jorla ordered, trying to maintain her dignity while floating awkwardly near the ceiling. A voice came through the speakers, unmistakably human, male, with a tone that could only be described as smugly amused. Greetings, visitors. This is General Marcus Flynn of the Earth Defense Alliance. We noticed you taking an interest in our little outpost and thought we'd introduce ourselves properly. Don't worry about your ship. The effects are temporary. Consider this a friendly demonstration. We will be sending a delegation to discuss terms shortly. Welcome to the Sol system. Please keep your appendages inside the vessel at all times. The transmission ended, leaving us in stunned silence. This can't be happening, Jorla finally said. They are supposed to be primitives. They shouldn't have detected us, let alone disabled a Confederation vessel. I managed to grab a handrail and pull myself down from the ceiling. Admiral Corzan did say humans were full of surprises, I remarked dryly. Jorla shot me a look that would have withered a less resilient being. Commander Valix, this is hardly the time for humor. With respect, Captain, humor might be all we have left at the moment. Before Jorla could respond, the ship's systems suddenly hummed back to life. Gravity returned with an unpleasant jolt, sending several crew members crashing to the floor. Damage report, Jorla demanded, straightening her uniform. Minimal physical damage, reported the engineering officer. But our quantum drive is offline. We can't leave orbit. And there's something else, Captain, Wren added, staring at his console with wide eyes. I'm detecting multiple launches from Earth's surface. Military response? Jorla asked tensely. No, they appear to be transport vessels, 7 of them, on an intercept course. I moved to Wren's station and examined the data myself. These aren't primitive combustion rockets, I said slowly. These are, I don't even recognize this propulsion signature. How long until intercept? Jorla asked. At their current velocity, 17 minutes, Wren replied. Jorla's expression hardened. Prepare for possible boarding. Security teams to all airlocks. Captain, I ventured. Perhaps we should consider a diplomatic approach. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. Diplomacy? With primitives who just disabled a Confederation vessel? Jorla scoffed. High Command will never stand for this humiliation. High Command isn't here, I pointed out, and we are in no position to resist. For a long moment, Jorla stared at me, internal conflict evident on her face. Finally, she nodded. Very well, Commander. Since you seem to understand these humans so well, you will lead the diplomatic team. 17 tense minutes later, we gathered at the main airlock. I stood at the front, flanked by Dex and our cultural specialist, Lena. Behind us, despite Jorla's reluctant agreement to diplomacy, stood 4 security officers with stun weapons discreetly holstered. Remember, I briefed the team. Humans are emotionally volatile but can be reasoned with. Follow my lead and... A metallic clang interrupted me as something attached to our airlock. They have docked, Dex announced unnecessarily. The airlock cycled, and I straightened my posture, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. The door slid open to reveal 5 humans in sleek, dark uniforms that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The human in front, presumably General Flynn based on his insignia, smiled broadly. He was tall for a human, with close-cropped gray hair and piercing blue eyes that somehow reminded me of Admiral Corzan. Commander Valix, I presume, he said in perfect galactic standard. My mandibles clicked in surprise before I could stop them. How do you know my name? And how are you speaking our language? Flynn's smile widened. We have been monitoring your communications for quite some time. You'd be surprised what humans can accomplish when properly motivated. May we come aboard? We have much to discuss. I glanced back at my team, seeing my own shock reflected in their expressions, before turning back to Flynn. Of course, General. Welcome aboard the research vessel Quantum Horizon. As Flynn and his team stepped through the airlock, I couldn't help but think that the Galactic High Command's laughter had been premature. Very premature indeed. And somewhere in the back of my mind I heard Admiral Corzan's dismissive voice, these humans and their so-called space program. Can you believe they still use combustion rockets? Apparently they didn't, and that was just the beginning of what the High Command had gotten wrong. General Flynn moved through our ship with the relaxed confidence of someone touring their own property. His team followed, their eyes scanning everything with methodical precision that belied their seemingly casual demeanor. Quantum propulsion, gravitational manipulation, neural interface controls, Flynn remarked, gesturing to various systems as we walked toward the conference room. Impressive, but not quite as advanced as we expected. I nearly tripped over my own feet. Not as advanced? General, with all due respect, your species was launching primitive satellites using chemical propellants less than a century ago. Flynn chuckled, the sound echoing down the corridor. Ah, yes, our public space program. Very entertaining, wasn't it? Tell me, Commander, if you wanted to hide your true capabilities from potential threats, wouldn't a convincing facade be the logical choice? My mind raced to process this implication. You are saying all of Earth's visible technology is deliberately primitive? Not all of it, Flynn corrected as we entered the conference room. Just the parts we didn't mind you seeing. Captain Jorla was waiting for us, having composed herself admirably despite the unprecedented situation. General Flynn, she acknowledged with a formal bow. I am Captain Jorla of the Confederation research vessel Quantum Horizon. Captain. Flynn returned the greeting with equal formality. Thank you for your hospitality, though I apologize for the rather forceful nature of our introduction. You disabled my ship, Jorla stated flatly. You were spying on our planet, Flynn countered, his smile never wavering. Fair's fair. One of Flynn's officers, a woman with dark skin and sharp features, stepped forward and placed a small device on the conference table. It hummed softly before projecting a holographic display that rivaled our own technology. I'm Colonel Anya Petrov, Earth Defense Alliance Intelligence. She introduced herself. Let's get right to it, shall we? We know you are part of the Galactic Confederation, comprised of 14 species across 73 star systems. We know you have been monitoring Earth for approximately 200 years. And we know that until about 6 hours ago. You considered us primitive bipeds who posed no threat or interest beyond our planet's resources. The room fell silent. Even Jorla seemed momentarily at a loss for words. How? I finally managed to ask. How could you possibly know all this? Flynn and Petrov exchanged glances. Should we tell them, Colonel? Flynn asked, clearly enjoying himself. They will find out eventually, sir, Petrov replied with a shrug. Flynn turned back to us. In 2031, that's 64 years ago by our calendar, one of your scout ships crashed in what you'd call our outback region. Australia, specifically. Very remote area. Your Confederation recovery team missed a few things in their haste to clean up the evidence. Impossible, Jorla objected. Any crash would have been reported and thoroughly sanitized. Well, somebody messed up, Flynn said cheerfully. We recovered fragments of quantum circuitry, a partially intact navigational system, and most importantly, a damaged but functional communications array. Petrov continued, once we figured out how to access your networks, Earth's governments made a collective decision. Pretend we hadn't found anything and continue our public space program exactly as expected, while secretly developing technologies based on what we'd learned. For over 60 years, you have been watching us launch our cute little rockets while we have been listening to your fleet communications, studying your technology, and preparing for the inevitable, Flynn added. The inevitable? I asked, not liking where this was heading. Invasion, exploitation, or benevolent guidance, Flynn said, making air quotes with his fingers. Pick your euphemism, Commander. History teaches us that technologically advanced civilizations rarely leave less advanced ones alone, especially when resources are involved. I wanted to protest, to defend the Confederation's principles, but the memory of Fleet Commander Taz's sharp-toothed smile and casual mention of appropriating Earth's resources stopped me cold. You mentioned the Earth Defense Alliance, Jorla said, smoothly changing the subject. I was under the impression that Earth remained politically fragmented. Another useful facade, Petrov explained. Publicly, yes, we maintain our separate nations and occasional conflicts. It helps sell the primitive image. The alliance operates in deep shadow, with representatives from all major nations. Flynn gestured to his diverse team. We have our disagreements, certainly, but the threat of potential alien invasion has a way of putting petty differences in perspective. And the lunar base? I asked. Just one of several, Flynn replied with obvious pride. We have installations throughout the Sol system. Mars, Europa, Titan, the asteroid belt. All carefully shielded from detection until we decide otherwise. Jorla leaned forward. What do you want from us, General? Want. Nothing complicated. Recognition, respect, and formal diplomatic relations with the Confederation as equals, not as a primitive species to be studied or exploited. The High Command will never agree to that, Jorla stated. Not without proof of your technological capabilities. Flynn's smile turned predatory. Oh, we are prepared to offer proof. In fact, we already have. He nodded to another member of his team who activated a small communication device. A new holographic display appeared above the table, showing space around Earth. Our ship was clearly visible, as was the Moon and 7 other Confederation vessels that had been completely invisible to our sensors. "What is this?" Jorla demanded, standing up abruptly. "These are the ships that came looking for you when you missed your scheduled check-in," Flynn explained. "Scout vessels, mostly. 2 light cruisers, currently disabled and contained, just like yours." "That's an act of war," Jorla whispered, her violet eyes wide. "No," Flynn corrected firmly. "That's a demonstration. If we wanted war, Captain, your ships would be debris, not temporarily inconvenienced." The human called Petrov stepped forward again. "We have been monitoring Confederation communications long enough to know how the High Command thinks. They respect strength. They dismiss weakness. We are simply speaking their language." "And what happens now?" I asked. "Now," Flynn said, his expression softening slightly, "we negotiate as equals." The next 26 hours were the most intense of my career. Captain Jorla, recognizing the precariousness of our position, designated me as chief negotiator, partly due to my interest in humans, and partly, I suspected, to have someone else to blame if things went poorly. General Flynn proved to be a formidable diplomat, firm in his demands yet reasonable in his expectations. Colonel Petrov was even more impressive, displaying an encyclopedic knowledge of Confederation politics, protocols, and biases that made me wonder just how deeply they had infiltrated our networks. By the time Admiral Corzan arrived with a diplomatic contingent, and, not incidentally, 3 battle cruisers that remained at the edge of the system at Flynn's request, the preliminary agreement was already drafted. The meeting took place on Luna, in the very base that had first revealed humanity's deception. Admiral Corzan's mandibles hadn't stopped twitching since he'd stepped foot on the base and witnessed human technology firsthand. "This is unprecedented," he muttered to me as we walked through corridors lined with technology that somehow managed to look both familiar and alien simultaneously. "The High Command is in chaos. The presider herself has taken personal interest." "Perhaps that's for the best," I suggested. "A fresh perspective might be valuable." Corzan stopped and turned all 4 eyes on me. "You don't understand, Valix. The humans have been monitoring our most secure channels for decades. Do you have any idea how many military and political secrets they have potentially accessed? The Krell representative is calling for immediate military action." "That would be unwise," I said carefully. "You haven't seen what I have seen, Admiral. Their defensive capabilities are substantial." "So everyone keeps telling me," Corzan growled. "Let's get this over with." The conference room was massive, with a domed ceiling that provided a stunning view of Earth hanging in the black sky above. The human delegation was already present, standing as we entered. Admiral Corzan, Flynn greeted, extending his hand in the human custom. "Welcome to Luna Base Alpha." Corzan stared at the outstretched hand for a moment before reluctantly extending his own. "General Flynn, the Confederation is interested in your proposal." "Wonderful," Flynn replied. "Shall we begin?" What followed was 7 hours of intense negotiation, occasional shouting primarily from the Krell representative, and ultimately the framework for something unprecedented, a treaty between the Confederation and a single planet species. And the terms were straightforward. Earth would be recognized as a sovereign system with all the rights and protections afforded to Confederation members. In exchange, humans would share certain technological innovations they had developed. Apparently, they hadn't just copied our technology but had improved upon it in several unexpected ways. Most importantly, Earth would not be required to join the Confederation but would instead maintain status as an independent ally, a concession that clearly rankled Admiral Corzan, but which President Leora, the human global leader who arrived midway through negotiations, insisted upon. "We have spent too long hiding in plain sight to surrender our independence now," she stated firmly, her aged face set with determination. "Friendship? Absolutely. Trade? Certainly. Mutual defense? When warranted. But Earth governs Earth." By the time we concluded, even the Krell representative had grudgingly acknowledged the humans' right to self-determination, though this might have been influenced by the demonstration of Earth's planetary defense system, which had temporarily disabled the Krell battlecruiser's main weapons array with apparent ease. As the formal signing concluded, I found myself standing next to Flynn, watching the various delegations mingle awkwardly. "You know," I said conversationally when I suggested to the High Command that humans might be worth watching more closely, "I never imagined this outcome." Flynn laughed. "Life's full of surprises, Commander. That's what makes it interesting." "Indeed. Though I'm curious why maintain the deception for so long. You could have revealed yourselves years ago." Flynn's expression grew serious. "We needed time to develop our technologies, build our defenses, establish our presence throughout the solar system. And we needed to understand the Confederation, its politics, its species, its intentions." He glanced at me. "Not all of you were as dismissive as Admiral Corzan, but enough were to concern us." "And now?" "Now we step onto the galactic stage as we are, not as the primitives you thought we were, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals with our own unique perspective to offer." He smiled. "I think it's going to be an interesting century." One solar cycle later, I found myself back on Earth, this time as the Confederation's first official ambassador. My promotion had come as a surprise. Apparently, Admiral Corzan had been impressed by my handling of the initial contact, though he would never admit it publicly. From my embassy in the neutral territory of New Geneva, I watched with fascination as human culture and technology began to spread throughout the Confederation. Their entertainment became wildly popular among younger citizens, their unique architectural designs transformed skylines on dozen worlds, and their peculiar blend of optimism and paranoia influenced political thought in ways no one had anticipated. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges multiplied, and slowly, the initial shock and indignation from the High Command transformed into grudging respect. "You know what the humans say," General Dorn commented during a diplomatic reception, his massive form awkwardly squeezed into what the humans called a tuxedo. "Necessity is the mother of invention, and paranoia is its father," added Science Director Prill, who had become an enthusiastic student of human technological innovations. "Imagine what they might have accomplished if they hadn't spent 6 decades deceiving us." "I prefer not to," I replied honestly. "They might have been less inclined toward peaceful relations." As the reception continued around us, my communication device chimed softly. A message from Fleet Commander Taz, who had perhaps undergone the most dramatic change in attitude toward humans after witnessing their military capabilities firsthand. Preliminary reports from the joint expedition to the Andromeda satellite galaxy, the message read. "The humans' quantum tunneling technology allowed us to establish contact weeks ahead of schedule. The indigenous species are challenging. Details to follow. But the human contingent's unorthodox approach may have prevented a diplomatic disaster. High Command is pleased." I smiled to myself, imagining Admiral Corzan's face as he received similar reports. The humans had a phrase for it, eating crow. Apparently it was quite bitter. Looking out over the reception, watching humans and various Confederation species mingling, arguing, laughing, and forming unexpected alliances, I couldn't help but feel a sense of privilege. I had witnessed the beginning of something unprecedented, not the assimilation of another species into the Confederation's homogeneous embrace, but a genuine partnership of equals. The Galactic High Command had laughed at Earth's technology, dismissing humans as primitive curiosities barely worth monitoring. Now, the laughter had stopped, and in the silence that followed, something new and unexpected was taking shape, a future where humanity's unique blend of creativity, paranoia, resilience, and optimism might just transform the galaxy in ways none of us could predict.